Yes, you will be the perfect pumpkin for Halloween. You're so squat and oddly shaped. It's rather wonderful. And you're such a vibrant shade of orange. It's so unique. And look at your sweet little stem. It's perfect. Yes, you'll do wonderfully. Oh, hello. How are you doing this evening? Oh, no. You're not interrupting anything. I'm just preparing for Halloween. You know, talking to my pumpkins and blessing my house and preparing, you know. I'm sorry. I must have imagined something for a moment. Did you just say that you've always viewed Halloween as somewhat of a hallmark holiday? Oh my goodness. Do you know anything about Halloween? Like anything at all? I thought not. Do you know the history at all? Yeah. I see. Well, do you have much time? Oh, you're free. Great. Please come on in. Take a seat. I have to tell you the history of Halloween. Yes, please come on in. Excuse me. Do you like tea? Don't you just love a good cup of tea? It makes everything better. This is my favorite mug. Thank you for complimenting it. It says, "A wee bit wicked." I got it because it's just like me. A wee bit wicked. Frankly, you're lucky that I liked that comment about Halloween slide. I could have been harsher, you know. Yes. Let's cheers. And let's get into it. When discussing the history of Halloween, there's no place to start other than with Samhain. Have you ever heard of it? No, I figured not. That's okay. It's very common among Wiccans and pagans these days, but it is not quite what it used to be. Samhain is a Celtic festival. Yes, actually, it's considered to be one of the more important, if not the most important festival of the Celtic year. And actually, it's signifying the new year for the Celts. It is the end of summer, moving into winter. Thus, things are starting again. Yes. Well, Samhain was a party for the Celts. They would light massive fires and they would feast and they would drink for anywhere from 3 to 6 days, and they would just have a great party. Beforehand, they had to prepare, of course, and, Samhain was believed to be the time when the border between two worlds, this one and the afterlife, was the thinnest. And, as you could understand, they had to prepare for that very sincerely, yes, because there are not so good spirits as well. They would leave offerings in meadows or fields and out outside of their towns or outside of their homes to appease the fairies and other demons that might try to, might be up to no good that day. And I've heard it's a very effective tactic. If you're ever worried about a fairy or a demon, maybe you should leave it some food outside. That might work. But they would also prepare for other things. They would prepare their home. They would make decorations out of juniper, which is a very cleansing and protecting herb. They would decorate the outside and the inside of their homes. Yes. In fact, excuse me, my hair. I don't have any sprigs of juniper on hand, but I do have some juniper berries. Oh goodness, my hair is getting caught in everything. This is actually what I made the tea I gave you out of. Juniper berries are also very good for cooking. They're very flavorful and spicy. I very much. Oh, and they give off just a sublime aroma. My time. I really love to play with them in here. They're so unique looking. Do you have any experience with juniper berries whatsoever? Oh no. Well, let's get them out. Maybe we can play around with them a little bit. Would you like to take a look at them up close? This is what they look like. Just little berries. These ones are actually dried. Just little guys. But they are certainly powerful. You know what? Let me get a bowl. I think we'll be able to see them up close that way. they just marvelous? They are indeed quite small. Just little guys. But they pack a punch. I just like the way they feel between my fingers. Now that these little guys are back in their rightful home. As I said before, they decorated their homes both inside and outside with juniper for protection and cleansing. And unfortunately I don't have juniper sprigs on hand, but I would like to show you what some of the bundles and things were like for them. So I thought that maybe we could use something else. Something similar. I have rosemary here. Ooh. Oh my goodness. It smells so good. Would you like to smell? Oh, no, please. Again, get a really good whiff in. Oh. Rosemary has similar properties to juniper, so I think it's an okay substitute. Also offers protection and cleansing and just downright smells amazing. Guys are really caught up in each other. Now, to make our bundles, it's quite an easy process, especially the one that I'm going to be doing today. The rosemary I have is fresh, it is not dried. But what I intend on doing with these guys is bundling them up together, like so. And I'll hang them probably over my front door. And if you leave them there long enough and keep them in a dry place, they actually will dry that way. So, to start, we need some string. And some scissors. These ones are just like little baby ones. Little baby scissors. And you take your string, and let me cut the end of this guy off really quickly. The frayed bit. Take your string. Oh my goodness, I am shedding. string came from last Christmas for me, so it has little amounts of glitter in it, or a little string of metallic string of some sort, which I quite like, and it'll do. It'll do just fine for this task. So, you take your string, and I would cut just a little bit, maybe about a foot or foot and a half, however long you'd like. And you take your bundles of rosemary or whatever herb you're going to do it with. And this is what I like to do anyway. I just wrap it around the end, like so, several times so it's nice and snug. And sometimes I'll do it like that, in crisscross motions, and crisscross motions like that, and crisscross motions. And then you take it, and you tie it, and then you tie it once more. I like to make it into like a little bow, and voila, you have your bundle of rosemary. We'll do it with the other one. Take another little bundle, several little stalks or sprigs. I'm not sure what you call that. Bundle it up like so on the end, and then you begin to wrap it, and you wrap it. And you tie it in a knot. And once more, tie it in a little knot. And you've got your rosemary bundle. Aren't they just lovely? I think they're wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Okay, I'm going to put these to the side for now. And the final herb I'm going to introduce to you and explain to you and protect us with and cleanse us with is sage. This one is very commonly used in today's world for protection and cleansing. Actually, this is a rather large bundle. I got it from a apothecary just up the street. They're wonderful. Just clean the area. And the house. And myself. And you. Have you ever cleansed yourself with sage before? Or a home or a building of any sort? You have not. Well, can you smell it? Doesn't it just smell phenomenal? I have been told that it is very important to focus on corners because spirits like to live there and lurk there. They hide. So focus. Focus on corners. And as you're doing it, think positively. Think positively. You can say a prayer or positive affirmations or anything you want, really. Around this time of year, you could even speak to your ancestors if you'd like. Let them know that your house is safe for them and that they're welcome to come and visit. That you'd love to have a chat or share a hot cross bun or any treat you really like. Or maybe you could choose one that they really enjoyed. You feel nice now. I feel very cleansed and put at ease. Do you? Excuse me, my eyebrows itchy. But I'm sorry, what did you say? Oh, you do? I'm glad that you're starting to feel a little bit better. Sage is marvelous. Let me put it down up here. I suppose we should move on to the rest of the history of Halloween, and stop dawdling on the protection herbs. Though I agree they are quite lovely. Though, there is one more activity to protect ourselves on this holiday and during this celebration, because the two realms that border is thinner than usual. The Celts also believed that that is when ancestors and family members also crossed on to the other side. Who, you know, excuse me, I should clarify. They believe that that's when they're passed on, their deceased loved ones move to the other side. Yes, an important distinction, I agree. Well, as you'd imagine, this is a very important business to attend to, moving to the afterlife and all. So, they took it very seriously, and they were concerned for their family members. You see, fairies and demons, they are mischievous, and they're downright dangerous. So, in an attempt to keep them away and scare them off, the Celts would dress up as monsters, quote unquote, monsters. very similar to the way that I am. They would blacken their face like this with soot or things. They would make their eyes look darker and scarier like this. Maybe do different runes or nodding or anything like that. They would paint their face and they would wear antlers like this. Though I imagine theirs are real. No deer or elk were harmed in the making of this historical session. I should say historical lecture. These ones are not real. As time passed from the ancient to more Middle Ages, Samhain traditions changed, as you can imagine. Hundreds of years passed. So celebrations became smaller, more personal bonfire type fires. Not this massive thing anymore, but smaller. Maybe held with just your family or a few families in your area. Or maybe it was held in your village, but it was not the same type of celebration. And these fires were thought to be protective of families, again cleansing, and it was to protect the town and the families from any spirits that might have ill will. During this time, something called Dumb Supper came about as well. And yes, I know, dumb, it sounds silly. It is in fact D-U-M-B, supper. But that didn't mean anything like we mean it today. Dumb supper was a large meal that people would prepare, and they would intentionally celebrate it with their ancestors and deceased relatives and friends and other loved ones. And it was a pretty big deal. They would interact with them. Children would dance and put on plays and just play in general in order to entertain the spirits of their loved ones. And then would all sit down and they would offer them food and alcohol, often mead. And they would just discuss how they were doing. It was around this time that the tradition of mumming began. Have you ever heard of mumming before? That's okay. It'll sound very familiar once I tell you what it is. Mumming started in Ireland, is what I understand. And around 500 years after the beginning of Samhain, people began this tradition. Mumming is when people, particularly children, would dress in costumes, ghosts or demons or other fun ideas to dress and play pretend. And they would go door to door, knock, and they would entertain the person at their home. They would sing, they would dance, they would put on plays, and it was all to get some sweets. It was often cakes at this time that the person at the house would give them, if they enjoyed whatever the children, or I suppose older people, but mostly children, were doing for them. I suppose now's the time that I should start discussing Christianity's influence on Samhain. Around the Middle Ages is the time when Christianity started gaining traction in the countries and areas that celebrated Samhain. And in an attempt to reframe it as a Christian holiday, they decided to move it to May. And it wasn't all that effective. It actually, other people would celebrate in May, but then they would also continue to celebrate in October and November. So, one final time, Christians decided to move Samhain back to October, November, and labeled it a Christian holiday. Though not much changed right away. They celebrated it in similar ways to the traditional Samhain way. They would light bonfires, they would have parades, and they also dressed in costumes. They did rename it, however. They named it All Souls Day, or All Saints Day. This is also the time when the name All Hallows Eve came into play. All Hallows Eve. All Hallows Eve. I think now is probably a good time to discuss Halloween making its way over to America, making its jump across the pond, if you will. Its jump across the pond. So, due to rigid Protestant Puritan belief systems back in early America, Halloween took some time to make its way over. It was not really celebrated. I have heard that it was mostly celebrated in Maryland and more of the southern states, but not nearly as frequently as the hundreds of years prior. However, as time passed and more immigrants made their way over, especially during the Irish potato famine when the awful plague spread through Ireland and forced so many of them to flee starvation and come to America, Halloween traditions, or even Samhain traditions, came with them. They started telling spooky stories, ghost stories, and of that nature, and it started gaining traction. In America in the late 18 to early 1900s, people started pushing for the mythology and the folklore elements of Halloween to be removed, which is interesting. They really pushed for community-based get-togethers, and they were going for a more wholesome approach to things. And it worked for a little while, though not very long. Genuinely, don't you just love tea? I can't get enough. But yes, they started pushing for more community-based get-togethers. It didn't last very long. By the 1920s and 1950s, Halloween really started to take roots in America once more. The spooky element and the spooky traditions came back with a vengeance. And it was during this time that, honestly, a lot of the traditions that we celebrate, today, and still participate in today, really started to arise. So, dressing up in costumes and trick-or-treating became the most prominent thing that was associated with Halloween. And that's when candy started becoming a huge part of Halloween, because it was easier to give out packaged candy than cakes. Although some people I do know used to bake cookies and things. I think that is largely frowned upon these days, though. This is my Halloween candy jar. I love him. He's adorable. He's so happy looking. He's just like, feed me. Get in my belly. And he's eaten too much candy, as you can tell, as he's lost all of his teeth but the one. I tell him he needs to lay off, but he very clearly does not do that. Are you saying that because you think I look like this, I can't enjoy cute things in life? I'm offended, good sir. These ones specifically are the Reese's pumpkins. Do you see? Goodness. You see? Okay, good, they're out the right way. These are the ones that have orange frosting on them, or orange white chocolate cream on the outside. And they're just so tasty. I can't resist. This one kind of just looks like a little plum. But that's okay. I love him anyway. Oh my goodness, I almost forgot to make an honorable mention. And that is the importance of pumpkins. How could I forget to officially detail pumpkins for Halloween? It's not too in detail. They've just held a very big significance since the beginning of Samhain and all the way through. They have been part of celebrations through all of it for centuries now. But I do have a fun fact for you. Did you know that the first jack-o'-lanterns were not made out of pumpkins, but they were actually made out of turnips? Can you imagine making a turnip jack-o'-lantern? It doesn't seem like it would be the same, does it? I'm glad the people of that time came to their senses and decided to make pumpkins instead. Please forgive the unfinished appearance of my knitted pumpkin. Actually, I should say crocheted pumpkin. I just made it, and I have not completed it yet. It is supposed to have a little stem up here. The woman who supplied the pattern, the crochet pattern, recommended that I use a cinnamon stick, and I don't have any of those on hand, and I have not been able to run to the market to grab any. So for now, I'm using just like a little bundle of yarn. That's okay for the purposes. I wanted to show it off. I'm quite proud of this. hairs on him. Just gonna pull him tighter again. Well, I'm glad that you enjoyed our little lesson. I sincerely hope that before you make a ignorant comment, such as your one you made earlier, in the future, you'll try to learn a little bit. You never know who you're saying things to. They might not be as nice as I was. Again, I could have been meaner to you. But quite honestly, I love talking about Halloween and Samhain and all the traditions that are associated. So, I'll jump at any opportunity to discuss it. So thank you for giving me that. I hope you're willing to come back. Maybe in the future we can discuss more herbs or flowers or other Halloweens. Other Halloweens, I'm silly me. Other holidays. And other celebrations. Or perhaps you'll join me for just a simple cup of tea. I hope that you have a lovely rest of your evening. And, well, you'll know where to find me. Yes, it'll be very easy. I know, my house is rather remote. Just listen. Listen very carefully. Listen for whispers from the Hedgewood. Yes, you heard me correctly. Whispers from the Hedgewood. Just follow them, and they'll take you right to me. They might also take you to a fairy ring. In that case, you should not follow the whispers into the Hedgewood. But if it sounds something similar to me, then please follow them and join me again.